Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here on this fresh Monday morning. Claire and I have just been chatting and saying how this is just like a morning Monday booster of motivation. Isn't that right, Claire? And we were basically just saying how excited we are to have Ash on this morning because this is going to be the first time that he shares the behind the scenes of Bloom from beginning to end. He also said perhaps the only time. And, it's really exciting because this is a festival that has popped up in many of our feeds that we know people who have facilitated or gone to this event. So it's really, really exciting to have Ash here sharing with us on this fresh Monday morning. I'm going to give a little bit of an intro before we get started and before you get to hear Ash's magnetizing voice on his microphone. So it's a bit of a preamble, but it gives you a sense of like who Ash is if you haven't met him before, and why I have invited him to share this incredible wisdom with us. So Ash, who is actually a previous former colleague of mine, and also, we're kind of soul buddies in the industry. Let's face it. So Ash has recently pulled together this incredible 4-day embodiment festival called Bloom. Okay, and it was complete with outstanding facilitators, sponsors, presenters, and workshops all around the topic of authentic relating, embodiment, movement, basically a live, authentic living. And he sold 200 tickets over the launch period of a couple of months, and it was the first iteration of this event. And he created it from the ground up with, gathering a small team of people, created the promotional strategy, the marketing, the logistics, the booking of venues, the mobilization of the facilitators, the marketing. It was really incredible to witness, incredibly inspiring to see what was mobilized to get this event together. And so we are very lucky today to hear the behind the scenes multi-promotional strategy that went into getting this together and, was used to make this an incredible success. And we're very lucky to have the framework that Ash has reverse engineered that, provides us with the in-depth detail as to what made this a success, what got it off the ground, and all the ups and downs that went with it. Basically, Ash is not only the founder of this festival, he also organized Emergence, which was the festival over New Year's, and is now leading, this new coined embodiment movement that you may or may not speak to. But also on top of that, Ash is a business coach and a mentor and a strategist. He loves working with charismatic leaders who love embodiment. And, he loves to combine embodiment, intuition, and strategy to help, leaders make, multi-six-figure incomes while living a really good life and quality life. So he's got, over a decade of experience working with different online educators, facilitators, coaches, and, he really wants people to live a happy life and reach their potential and make wealth and have well-being and all of those things. So you can see why he's really well placed to be here today. That's the whole hour. Thank you so much for being here. Ash, welcome.
Thanks, Lise. Thanks for that glowing intro. That was beautiful.
I'm up to my game on intros in 1 week.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Yana.
Good one. Okay, should I dive in and get started?
100%. Yes.
Okay, cool. So it's a real pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar where I'm going to be telling you the story of Bloom Festival. And this was an epic journey. It had so many ups and downs and so many deep lessons learned. And it's going to be a real source of inspiration, but also real practical knowledge for anyone who wants to run a multi-day event and draw in a very large audience without having any existing, with barely any reputation for doing something like that. So, I know a lot of us in the industry have dreams of running an event like this, but it can seem a bit daunting and it can almost seem impossible. So, this story is evidence that it's possible, and it will shatter some of the misconceptions about how difficult it can be, and it will hopefully prove to you that you can do it too. So let's dive in. So firstly, who am I? My name is Asher. I am a business coach and a facilitator. I've been working in this industry for over a decade. Really, what I want to help you do is I want to help you give your deepest gifts to the world. I want you to help you sell out your coaching packages and your group containers. I want to help you create lots and lots of income, and I want to help you nourish your soul at the same time. This is what my sense of purpose is all about. And I want to tell you a little bit, before I dive into my story, I want to tell you a little bit about why you would actually want to listen to me. I've supported a lot of the well-known coaches in our industry, helping people reach 100K all the way up to over $1 million in revenue per year. In the last year, I've done 250K in sales in my own business, done over 100K in sales in one-to-one coaching. The 2 festivals that I ran generated over 130K, and in consulting, I've generated another 30K. So if business success is something that's important to you, and you want to hear from someone who's created business success, then settle in and listen up. And most importantly, I'm deeply living my purpose, and I have a really beautiful, nourishing life. I'm not one to just get, I have been sucked into the hustle of business in the past, but right now and for the rest of my life, my commitment is to be really nourished and joyful and smell the roses along the way as well. So who is this for? This is for anyone who wants to sell out a multi-day event. And it doesn't have to be a festival. It could be a retreat or a training or a conference. And it's for people who are looking for the ingredients to create a successful multi-day event. And we're going to cover mindset and strategies and very practical tactics. And we're also going to show that it's really possible. We're going to explore marketing, positioning, package design, pricing, branding, social media, email, affiliate partnerships, promo partnerships, and also some of the more intangible stuff like team leadership, financial management, business psychology, and visionary power. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but if you have questions, dive in. And this is brings me to my next. And by the way, all of these images are actually from Bloom Festival. So I had photographers all over the place, and it'll give you a taste of what the event was like. This was our opening workshop where we had 200 people doing this deep connection exercise, which was so beautiful to see. So while you're in this webinar, how do you receive this? How are you going to get the most out of this webinar? The first thing is to enjoy the journey. This is a hero's journey. If you relax, I'm basically going to take you through an epic movie and educate you along the way. So just settle in and enjoy the journey. Take what feels useful. There's going to be a lot of tips here, and you're going to feel within you what's going to be useful for you. So just take the pieces that feel valuable. Ask questions along the way. I've got the chat box open here on my other screen. So if you want to know any details or have any questions or anything seems confusing or unclear, shoot me a message and I'll respond directly to you. Use the cheat sheet. I've at the end of this, Lisa is going to upload a summary, and it's going to be, all this information is going to be really well organized for you. So if you actually want to apply it for your own event, you're totally welcome to do so. And ask for more. If you want to get additional support from me afterwards, feel free to reach out. I'm really available to talk. Cool. So before we dive into the story, I would love to know in the chat box, who do you help? In very simple terms, who do you help and what is it that you offer them? So just chuck a few things in there, and it's going to help me attune to you and speak to things that are really relevant to you and your journey. Cool. So Lisa's got writing copy for transformational coaches to help them sell out their one-to-one offers and group programs. Awesome. So I'm going to hone in on copywriting. and catering to coaches and facilitators. And Claire helps people experiencing anxiety and overwhelm who want to gain more self-confidence. Awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to try as much as I can and hone in on these topics. And if there's anything specific to what you're offering, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll tailor it to what you need. Cool. So let's keep moving. So lesson 1, listen to your soul. So the start of this journey, the Bloom journey, is actually like, I think it was about a year before I actually ran the festival. I was running a commercially successful business in the personal development industry. I was bringing in lots of money, but I had lost touch with my real sense of purpose, and I'd lost touch with what was really inspiring for me. And I basically was feeling really burnt out, and I was losing motivation, and it wasn't sustainable. And I went to a transformational embodiment retreat. I felt super inspired by the people who were there. I noticed a lot of them were living in the Northern Rivers. So I flew up there, and these people were so in touch with the beauty of life, really. They enjoyed the moments. They were living in community. They went to the markets. They had lots of parties. They knew how to dance. They had a lot of fun with their lives, and it really inspired me. And very quickly, I like downsized my business. I sold everything that I had. I bought a Subaru, because you have to have a Subaru when you go and live in the Northern Rivers, because the roads are really rocky. And I moved up there, and I downsized to 3 days a week. And I spent a lot of time, like 3 or 4 months, just caring for myself, doing meditation and movement practices and qigong and walks in nature. And to be honest, at that time, I was really burnt out, and I needed to get back in touch with what feels good and what feels alive and what feels inspiring to me before I could actually embark on any kind of mission with authentic care. And the lesson is don't do what I did. Don't keep building the business, build, and lose touch with what you're really passionate about. Stay present to what you care about. And if it means you need to slow down, then slow down, because it'll be more sustainable, and you're not going to need to take a 4-month holiday and just pretty much just pause all your business things. You'll be able to keep going at a slow and steady pace. So that's lesson 1, listen to your soul. So lesson 2 is find your tribe. And these are a whole bunch of the people who are at Bloom. And a lot of these people are like special characters in my life. The key here is to find people who are living the values that you're inspired by. When you're surrounded by people who you really trust, and you really care about the same things that you do, and want to look after you, want to care about you, there's a sense of confidence and passion that comes out of it. So I was pretty burnt out. I met this community. I spent time with them. I saw people who are living the way that I want to live, and it inspired me. It fueled me. And it was the seed. It was actually the seed of Bloom, seeing how these people lived and wanting to share that with the rest of Australia. So after about 6 months in the Northern Rivers, I decided to run an event. I decided to run a little contact improv dance event in the forest. And it was crystallizing. It was my time spent in the community and my enjoyment of the practices that they were gaining. And I was hearing these threads of inspiration returning. And I settled in on this purpose. And the purpose was, like, I saw these amazing, embodied, inspired, nourished people who were living in the Northern Rivers, and a lot of very talented facilitators. And I saw how I was back in lockdown, and how my community was back in lockdown, very much on the screen, not moving the body, slowly becoming very disconnected from emotion. And I felt inspired to share the wisdom in this local community with the rest of Australia. That was like a mission that I wanted to drop into and really contribute my care for. And also, I noticed that a lot of the coaches and the facilitators in the Northern Rivers, they weren't very good at marketing. They didn't have a solid audience. And I wanted to bring people into their field so that these coaches and facilitators could share their gifts. And I had this very inspiring sense of mission, and it motivated me to take the risk of actually trying to create a 200-person event. What I took away from this is, when you know your purpose, when you know what you're here for, and you have that sense of motivation and drive, it will help you overcome your insecurities and your character blocks to do things beyond what you could do before. It will stretch you, it will grow you. So yeah, choose your purpose, know what your purpose is, and it will take you very far. So I knew that I wanted to share this knowledge with Australia. I knew I wanted to share this wisdom and provide a transmission of my local community to the world. But I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know how to do it. I considered starting up an embodiment center, like with regular training schedule. I considered creating online products and running group programs for these local facilitators. And what I discovered was, I talked to my local community, and I discovered that because of lockdown, there weren't any New Year's Eve parties happening. There were a couple, but they were really druggy and really intense and kind of intimidating. And there was no conscious drug and alcohol free event happening over New Year's. This was 2021 to 22, that New Year's period. And there were barely any local events happening. So I took my passion and I identified a niche, a gap in the market, which was having a drug and alcohol free event over New Year's. And I talked to the people. I talked to the people who were around me and asked them for their feedback. And they were like, yeah, there's no event. We need this. We know we need this. And at that time, I was pretty intimidated. I'd never run an event for more than like 50 people before. I didn't know if it was possible, but I had my sense of purpose, and I had identified a real gap in the marketplace, and that gave me the courage to move forward. So I booked a venue. The minimum spend on the venue was 10 grand, but I had this courage. And so I just said yes. I was like, okay, let's do it. This beautiful venue in the forest, which is the venue that you can see in all these photos. And this is the facilitators list and the schedule for Bloom Festival. And they're looking for the thing that they personally need, right? And that's the niche. That's like, what are they yearning for that they don't yet have and that other people aren't providing? So know your niche, know the gap in the marketplace. So I was like, okay, I've got a purpose, I've got an offering. How am I going to do it? And I looked at my strengths, and I've always identified as a bit of a mechanic. So this is wealth dynamics. This is an amazing team building tool. And it helps understand the energies and the characters of different people that you need on your team. And there's like 4 major qualities. There's steel, which is about systems. There's blaze, which is about people. There's dynamo or wood, which is about innovation. And there's earth or tempo, which is about execution. So you've got people and things, and innovation and execution. And I knew that I would need to fill all of these qualities to create a functional team. I've created lots of teams in the past. And when one of these energies is missing, the team tends to fall over. Now, I knew, based on my own experience, that I could do the innovation, a lot of the innovation, and I could do a lot of the systems because I've done it before for so many other businesses. And I could keep the execution pretty minimal and bring people in who could do little bits and pieces. I was very much creating a minimum viable product. Lisa is a star supporter creator. So she's like right here in this quadrant. And Lisa, that's what I needed. I needed stars. I needed blaze and stars. And to be more specific, I needed community leaders who were influential. So I brought in 3 people in the Northern Rivers. It was Damien, Mia, and Dane, I made sure they were on the team. I gave them a sense of ownership and responsibility, and I invited them to promote the festival because I knew that people would follow them. So in my team, the gap was in star power, and I brought in stars to support me. And that was massively beneficial because people just followed them to the festival. If Mia's doing the festival, so am I. And for you, there's a question when you want to create an event: which of these energies do you embody, and which of these energies are fulfilled on your team, and which are missing? If you've got all creators, then no one's going to get things done. If you've got all systems and structures, then who's going to inspire the people? So it's about knowing where the gaps are and filling them out. And that was really, really helpful for me, because once I had stars on my team, I didn't have to stress about being the star. I knew someone else could do it for me, and I could just focus on what I do really well, which was actually building and organizing this festival. So the next piece is minimum viable product. The idea of running this event was overwhelming. There's a million things to do. And what kept me focused and kept me sane is, okay, this is my first event. All I need to focus on is the absolute minimum that's needed in order to inspire people to come and fulfill them. So anything that was irrelevant, I just cut out. And that kept things simple, that kept things clean. There were so many different things that I didn't do, and it enabled me to stay focused and calm. And this guy here, he was our firekeeper at the festival. We had 2 firekeepers that were constantly looking after the fire. And here you can see there's this like little fire that he's starting. He hasn't overloaded the fire with logs. He's just got a little bit of kindling. And once that kindling is hot and burning, then you start putting on those bigger logs. But if you'd put the big logs on at the start, the fire never would have started. And it's the same with a business. You need to start with simple, straightforward, clean, minimalistic, so that you can do the core of what people really need really well. And everyone does this. Everyone's, it's called feature creep or bloat. It's really tempting to offer everything when you create a product, but it's a dead end. So you've got to keep things super simple right at the start. So that kept me sane. The next thing is listening to your people. So here's a beautiful authentic we did at Bloom. And I listened to the people. I listened to the stars that I brought on the team. I talked to my friends about the product who I knew were the target audience for what I wanted to create. And I asked them what they wanted, and I learned from them. It's really easy to silo yourself when you're creating a new product, to build this big epic thing and not engage with people, because once you engage with people, you start getting feedback and it can be a bit shaky on the ego. But the sooner you find out what people actually want and what they don't want, the faster you can grow and evolve your program, and ultimately the more successful it's going to be. So I did a lot of listening. There were questions around how much music versus how much embodied practice, how much sexuality stuff, how much dance stuff. I really wanted to listen and focus on the people who I really want to serve and not try and serve everyone. And that worked in my favor. That event, that first event, Emergence, it sold out with basically no marketing because the offer was so clear and so precise. So the next piece is to stand for something when others won't. This is Sarah. She's one of our DJs, and she's also the decor creator who created these beautiful stage pieces. And before I ran Emergence, in the month before, the Corona lockdown policies were like in full swing in New South Wales. We couldn't cross the border. The locals were getting really pissed off about mask policies, and there was a lot of heated debate. And I realized that I needed to bring in like a protection policy for Corona. I needed to have tests at the door to the festival. And this was very controversial because in the Northern Rivers, everyone is like, a lot of people are very pro-freedom and anti-authority and anti-rules. And, we'd sold about 120 tickets. And I was afraid that if I changed the policy, that people would refund their tickets. And then I'd be like tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And also that I'd develop a reputation for being like a a shill or a sheep. And there were a lot of really heated opposition to policies like this. And on the Telegram channel that we had to promote the festival, there were like a lot of hateful, divisive comments that were like I was talking about bringing in a policy and they were saying like, oh, you know, you're corrupt. Like, should we also do STI checks and mental health checks? And like, I could see them drawing into debate. And, you know, I sat with it and I felt into what was needed. And I felt really uncomfortable about being divisive. Normally, I'm a pretty diplomatic person, but it was a moment where leadership was needed and I needed to have a strong voice and set a standard. And basically what I said was like, I understand that some people are anti getting tested, and I understand that some people are pro getting tested. This festival is not about politics. There are enough platforms for debating about policy. I'm not entertaining debate on this channel. This is about the unity of the community, and this is about having a good time, and it's not about divisiveness or separation. So if you want to debate with me, send her a private message and I'll engage with you. And we are going to have this policy. And if you want to have a refund, you can get it within the next 3 days, because for me, maintaining the safety of the people at the festival is the most important thing. And, you know, if you disagree, I accept it and I respect you. So I didn't engage in debate. I actually clamped down on debate and set it to a private space. And I just stood for what I believed in, even when other people disagreed. So I put out that policy, very nervous. There were like 15 people who got refunds. And then within the next week, another 50 people had signed up, and we sold out that festival. And I just got so many comments afterwards saying, thank you for what you stood for. Thank you for how you stood for it. Thank you for being respectful, but strong. It inspired me. It inspired me to come to your event. Really appreciate what you're putting out there. So all the people who were so passionate about their views that they refused to go to the festival, they filtered themselves out, and I didn't even have to deal with them. And the people who were aligned with my values, that whole communication, that whole political thing actually drew them in. And the lesson that I learned there was like, it's very tempting to try and please everyone. It's very tempting to make, you know, try and be all things for all people. But when you do that, firstly, it's impossible. So you get stressed out of your mind trying to please everyone. And secondly, you end up attracting people that are not values aligned, and then trying to work with them is exhausting. But when you stand for something and you're okay with pissing people off who aren't values aligned, you tend to draw in the people who are actually aligned with your values. And when you create offerings, they appreciate them. They learn from them. They're your best customers because they love what you're doing. So if you're not pissing someone off at some point, you're probably being too diplomatic. So start to notice for the opportunities where you can stand for what you believe in, and you will genuinely inspire people and draw in. This is how we create a movement. It's not by pleasing everyone. It's by standing for what's really important, even if there's a risk. That's what really inspires people. People are looking for a strong voice. Lisa says, working with people who are not values aligned is exhausting. Absolutely. Yes. That's actually like my next slide. It's what my second next slide. So the next piece is to play the long game. So this festival, the first festival, Emergence, was epic. I sold 160 tickets, basically sold itself because there was such a gap in the marketplace. It was not as easy for Bloom because the festivals are now starting to come out, which is where I employed the real powerful marketing techniques. But Emergence was a huge success, right? But it basically just broke even. And the reason why it was a success is because I knew that when you want to run a festival, it's going to take a few years to get it right and create commercial success. It's unlikely that you run your first festival and it's like epically financially successful. And I saw the big picture. I'm in this industry for my lifetime. I'm devoted to embodiment. And if this experiment teaches me how to run a financially successful festival, it's totally worth it. And that was something that gave me permission and gave me confidence to go out there and try. So the lesson here is to play the long game. Know what you're willing to stand for a decade. Know what you're willing to practice and experiment and get wrong so that you can learn and earn the success. I think there's a real myth in this industry that we need to, create epic success within our first 6 months. It's very easy to sell that, and it's very easy to sell products who have that, but it creates these burdensome expectations that create huge pressure. If we can drop that and make it sustainable and be patient and play the long game, this is how we really create an enduring, sustainable success that also enables us to feel at ease and relaxed and at peace with ourselves at the same time. So I could have brought my crazy expectations of doing insanely well financially and then punished myself if I didn't get there. Or I could have accepted, this is my first festival, I'm going to be patient. And it was really worthwhile because I actually really enjoyed that festival. I had a lot of fun. This is Mika. She's a woman from our community, and she's an incredible dancer. You look at her on the dance floor, it's like, wow, this woman is so gifted. What you don't see is that she's been dancing for 20 years. And the reason why she's able to do that is because it's not about looking brilliant on your first dance. It's about enjoying the craft and taking your time. So play the long game. Mika is also in this community. That's beautiful. I can't wait for Mika to see this. So the next piece, as Lisa said, is to work with people who are values aligned. So at this point, I had decided, okay, I've run this epic festival. I've run it for 160 people. It was very cheap. I want to run it again, and I want to make good money from it. And let's see what happens. And that was what kind of enabled me to take the leap. But I knew that some of the people on my team, by the way, this is a very beautiful and distracting photo. I'll just speak to it a little bit so we can get actually focus on the message. This was at Bloom. There was a creek at the festival, and a whole bunch of people decided to do a nudie swim, and it's just beautiful. When you get people who are around you who share your values, you go further, right? Because you get permission to be you. When their values conflicts, it's exhausting. You're constantly navigating the struggle of mediating different values. It's important to have diversity on your team. It's important to have different strengths and different viewpoints. But when there's big blocks in values, progress can tend to come to a standstill. That the people who are here all naked and dancing together, if there was someone around there who was like, nudity, I don't know, they wouldn't have had the confidence to get out there and be their freaky selves. So that's why I picked this photo. And at that point, after emergence, there are a few people on the team who I just clashed with. It was really hard to work with them. And I let them go. I said, look, thank you for what you did. And I just didn't invite them again. There was an exclusivity lesson there. And there were a few people on the volunteer team, like Sarah, that DJ who I showed earlier, who was such a contributor and so aligned on the mission and so inspired. And I brought her in as one of the core team members, and she did a phenomenal job. And it was such a psychological relief to have her on the team and to not have some of those other people. It meant that I could do such good work. So if you're on a team and there are people who are not aligned with your values, they're not there for the long term, I would invite you to, if you've tried and it's not worked, I invite you to just let them go and find someone else who's more aligned, because it'll serve you in the long term. It's a little bit of short-term pain for a lot of long-term benefit. So I assembled my team. I brought Sarah in. I brought a couple of other people in, and I was like, okay, it's January. I'm going to launch another festival, and we're going to make it big. And let's see how well we can do with it. And the next piece I did was I created my budget, because festivals and large scale events, there's a lot of financial risk. The expenses of the festival were like 40, 45 grand, including all the marketing and the venue hire and all the different things. And I wanted to know, how many tickets do I have to sell and how much am I going to lose? What's my risk here? And can I really make peace with that risk? And I set up myself. So I had a full coaching load, and I knew that even if the festival broke even and I sold like 2 or 3 coaching spots, that would make it worth it financially. And if it made a loss and I had to sell another 2 or 3 coaching spots to make up for it, that would be okay. And it kind of, in those moments where I was like, shit, is this really going to work? Can I make this happen? What are the risks here? I knew that I had my budget and I could look at the numbers and feel relieved that I was taking financial responsibility for myself. So when you're running an event like that, even just a simple forecast of revenue and expenses, and like, what is your break even point and what is your profit point, understanding that stuff will bring a lot of ease and relaxation to your system. So I did that, set up that budget. It was really helpful. And then the next piece was I invested in mentorship. This guy here, Simon Takur, absolute genius of embodiment. He runs like 6, he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he does ancestral movement, which is a modality that he created. He's got like 2 PhDs. He does Qigong, he does capoeira, just a brilliantly talented guy. And he's one of the main reasons why I came up here. I do like 4 of his classes a week, and I'm learning, I'm progressing so much on my journey. And I got him, it was such a joy to have him at the festival, sharing his gifts with the world, because he lives in the forest in a little hut, and he has like 8 people coming to his classes, and it's outrageous. He just does not care about business whatsoever. And yeah, I got to bring him in and have like 50 people go to his class and 50 people go to his other class and get his gift. So at this point, I knew I needed some support. I knew that if I just ran it the same as Emergence, I'd probably learn some stuff, but there are people out there who have run dozens of festivals. So I contacted a guy who'd run personal development festivals in the US for like 10, 20 years. This guy really knew what he was talking about. And I said to him, can you mentor me? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, if you do the marketing for our festival under my tutelage, I'll teach you how to do the marketing and I'll give you a whole bunch of mentorship. So I was like, oh yeah, cool. Paid gig to market another festival, learn how to market festivals, and get mentorship as well. Sweet deal. So I signed up as the marketing director for Soul Play, which is a really amazing festival provider in the US. They fill out their festivals with like 1,000 to 2,000 people 2 or 3 times a year. They make good money. They have beautiful policies, beautiful culture. And I'm so grateful that I did that. So grateful, because I learned what it takes to market a festival. If I hadn't done that, honestly, I think this festival, I probably would have had to cancel it. And I also, in those moments where I could tell that my mindset was leading me astray, I could just go to my mentor and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think? And they could give me a transmission of their calm or their confidence or the pieces I hadn't considered yet. And it pulled me out of a lot of very stressful situations and just kept me moving forward. Like the ability to move around potholes and save time with extra strategy was well worth investing in mentorship. So I highly recommend, if you're trying to do something new, have a think about who's done it before. Where am I reinventing the wheel? How can I get other people's guidance so I'm not wasting time? Yeah, cool. I'd love to hear from you guys. What is the number one takeaway so far that you've received, or something that's been really valuable for you that you can apply in your own life?
I'm going to jump in there first. There's so much. And I was just wanting to refrain from taking you off course because you're in your flow.
Sure.
For me, the piece that you spoke around, working with values aligned people, it's something that I have learned through trial and error myself. And the way you spoke to it, that idea of like, when you've got people around you that aren't granting who you are permission, you're just going to take that much longer to get where you need to go. And
Mm.
that is just exactly the point in values aligned soul business. It's like, is that the difference between your own soul business and working in an employee kind of 9 to 5 job, corporation, feeling like you just have to make it work, and having your own business, is that your business actually is allowed to enshrine your values. It's like it comes from you. Nothing is right or wrong. No one is right or wrong. It's just who is a fit to work with you, whether they're clients or colleagues or collaborators. And when we work with people who are aligned with us, we will amplify our impact, we'll amplify our wealth, we'll amplify the speed at which we can move. And the opposite is also true. And I feel like, we're kind of conditioned to just try to make things work and push up against it. And, unless we have the awareness that actually it's fine to have the values that we have, we're going to keep like trying to change ourselves to fit in with everybody. But that comes down to content as well. Some people are like, oh, but everyone isn't liking my status, everyone isn't commenting, everyone isn't inquiring about my offers. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter, because if you are sharing content that is actually authentically embodying and showing and demonstrating your values, people that are aligned with your values are going to respond to it. And that's all you need. Like, you don't need everyone else, because that's going to slow you down anyway. So I just found that incredible. And the second piece was, I loved hearing your go-getter attitude, like the humility you had in being like, there are things that I don't know, and I'm going to get my hands dirty to learn how to do it in like an embodied way. Like, I'm going to throw myself, I'm going to set the intention, I've got a purpose, I've set a date, and I'm just going to learn whatever I need to learn to make this happen, which is really courageous and is so the entrepreneurial mindset, and exactly, like what we, I guess, we need to be doing if we want to grow. We can't wait until we're there to do it. We have to actually set it and then get there. So like, they're my two biggest takeaways so far that I've just been bursting with.
Beautiful. Thanks, Lise.
Claire, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. That was really cool to hear that. My biggest takeaway is the way that you used your your strengths. And like, I liked that, when you were looking at the wealth dynamics and how you were able to really be confident in what your strengths were, and then supplement the other pieces that you needed in a really like way that I've just hearing you talk about it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not good enough because I'm not like that. It was like, I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I need. And that I think I just took a lot from that. It was like a huge piece really landed for me with my own work. And it's like, oh, okay, you don't have to be good at all of, I think I'm going through a process in my business now where like there's certain things that are coming up and I'm like, oh, that's not good enough. Why is that not good enough? And it's like, it doesn't, not every single part has to be done by you, and has to be like, I really loved how confident you are in your strengths, and then were able to get other things to support that was my biggest takeaway. Yeah. And also I like the piece of what Lisa said about the like just dedication and like radical unwavering, this is where the train's heading, this is the date I've set, I'm going to do what it takes, I'm going to get the mentorship, I'm going to just that drive is really like inspiring. Yeah, those are the two biggest things.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you
Yeah, sorry Ash, can I jump in with another one?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want to respond to Claire first? Because
no, go for it, you go first.
Yeah, okay, because what you just said, Claire, that concept of just not over judging yourself, and actually just looking at like, what am I good at, and where can I get that supplementary energy from if I don't if I don't have that. And it's like, you can spend 5 years in business struggling if you're just not willing to own what you're good at and what you're not good at. And there was another slide actually that if you just like keep jumping for a second,
Backwards or forwards?
I'm not sure actually. Listen to your people, stand for others. Play the long game. Yeah, it's play the long game. The piece around how you were at a point where you were like, I don't know if I'm actually going to make back the money that I've invested, right? However, you had the long game in mind. You were like, some of this is about the festival, but some of this is also about branding and positioning myself in the industry, and recognizing that by actually being the person who executed on a festival and created an experience for people, whether you made back all the money for it, it's actually, like you said, you might sell a couple of coaching packages from that. So it was like, yes, it's fantastic that it ended up being, you know, more of a profit-based endeavor. However, there is so much more when we launch a program or run a group membership or, you know, do a one-day workshop. There is so much that it's doing for our brand that isn't actually just about the money we're getting in that moment. It's the long game. So I just wanted to speak to that wisdom.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. You guys have inspired me to add a bit more on it, which is most people, when we hire people who look like us because we feel safe around them. But if everyone looks like us, then we have skill gaps on the team. And we don't generally do deep inquiry on values and really understand what our values are. So we hire people who have same skills and different values, but we want to hire people who actually look very different to us. They have different skills, but same values. So I know that on my team, I value people who are just so inspired by what they do that they're willing to go above and beyond. I don't work well with people who are just trying to get by and do the bare minimum. So like when I recruit, I'm like, what are you actually passionate about? What genuinely inspires you? And is this going to give you what you need? That's a deep value piece. Whereas when I look at people to hire, I'm actually looking people who look very different to me. So in this team, I was looking for charismatic people who have a natural, effortless way of inspiring people. And if you're someone who's really good with people, like you're usually a coach or a facilitator is going to be a supporter or a star, you're going to need people who have systems strength and tempo strength. Tempo strength people are the people who just get all the little details done consistently and reliably. And people who are good at building systems are going to help you like optimize and make things more efficient. And I find coaches and facilitators, when you're up to like 50, 60K, you can kind of get by as a one-person show. But when you get to like 70, 80, 90K, the admin starts to become intolerable and exhausting and demotivating. So you've got to bring in like a general manager, personal assistant type person. They're going to look different to you. They're going to have a lot of detail orientation, and they might seem a bit fastidious or pedantic, but they're going to be able to take care of the details so well that you can just be in your star energy and be in your creativity. And also around that time, you're going to start to think much more strategically about your marketing and your product lines. So you're going to need to bring in someone with more of a mechanic creator focus to help you design. So, when you're between like 70 to 100K, you're probably going to have a PA somewhere between 5 and 20 hours a week. And you're going to have a coach or a mentor who can spell out the pathway in a really practical way and help you stay focused. And they're probably going to have like a creator mechanic type energy. Yeah. Cool. So Lisa said, thank you, Jill. Jill is probably filling out a lot of that tempo energy in Lisa's team.
I'm like, the graphic's ready to post. She's like, Lisa, the font isn't balanced. Like, I don't care. I'm ready to post it now.
Yeah. So let's keep going. So we did create. Yeah, cool. So I invested in mentorship. And after I got Romy as a mentor, I built the website. And there's many webinars on website design and sales copy and all sorts of things. It doesn't look beautiful. I mean, it kind of looks beautiful, but aesthetically it could be better, but it doesn't matter. This is an MVP. It needs some aesthetic to communicate the vision, but really what it needs is high quality copy in the right order. So I've got this intro video here that communicates the vibe. And then I've got an acknowledgement of country. And then I've got some like copy that again, it communicates the energy, and the photos communicate the energy. And then I've got the values here, because this is a very values driven festival. It's for people who don't just want to get wasted and have a good time. They want to have a meaningful experience. And then I've got like, in fact, I'm actually not going to dive into dissecting the entire website, but if you're curious, you can go to the embodiedmovement.com/bloom2022, and you can actually have a read and notice the copy and the impact that it has on you. So I built the website, and the lesson here that I really want to point to is actually, after that, I designed the sales timeline and I created peak buying moments. And this is really critical in a launch, that you understand what's happening across the duration of your launch. And so this is Audrey. Audrey's my dear friend of mine. She's a cacao ceremonialist, very authentic. And we put her after dinner before the ecstatic dance at night to sell cacao. And it just sold so well, because we were selling at that peak moment. It's like, okay, I'm about to have an ecstatic dance. I've just had dinner. I want the energy. Yes, I want cacao. So there's a lot of intentionality that went into our launch timeline. So we had 4 pricing tiers, $335, $365, $395, and $435. And they were like 2 weeks apart. And then I'd think, okay, I've got these 4 2-week selling periods, and each 2-week selling period I could then look at as a mini launch. And it was using this urgency. It's like, okay, we've got 2 weeks. So for the first week, I'm going to put content marketing. For the second week, I'm going to start to remind people that the price is going to go up. And then in the last 2 days before, it's like, hey guys, the price is going to go up, time to buy. So it gives people the motivation and a sense of, okay, now is my time. Now is my peak buying moment. If you're running an online course, this is something that you can do with webinars. You can run a webinar every 2 weeks during your launch. And then at the end of the webinar, you can say, cool, if you buy within the next 24 hours, we're going to give you a discount. And in the webinar, you get people ready to buy, and then you give them a reason to buy now. That really helped. And you'll see in the sales, because I've got the whole sales graph of every date, how many sales we've made, that they peak around these peak buying moments. So the next piece is we ran an epic launch party. We ran this really fun. Sarah actually ran the launch party. We sold tickets for $50. It was also like a reunion for merchants. And the reasoning behind this launch party, actually, before I give you the reasoning, I might just show you the video. So we had dinner, we had a cacao ceremony, and we had an ecstatic dance. And I took loads of footage of it because I wanted promotional footage to communicate how fun this festival was going to be, and that it has a bit of a sense of humor to it. So I'm going to play this video. Hopefully we can read it, hear it. Can you guys hear that?
I can hear it, yeah.
No, you can't? Did you say you could hear it, Lise? Yes, can hear it. Great. Okay. So I'm just play this video and you can kind of see what I did. So I recorded all this footage at the event. I'll just, you can read that. So it says, warning, Bloom Festival has the potential to bring about severe side effects, including but not limited to. And then it's got this silly, fun, kind of sexy vibe video. And it shows how passionate all the dancers are in this little crowd.
Hips swinging, making moves so we never stay sitting. These queen bees singing, I've been thinking I'ma keep bringing to the phone, keep bringing, and it's true though. Going in the combat like it's judo. Just be with the beat and the bars in the studio. Miss Scarlet with the cool flow, play the game, you know. You know I've been killing them right, that's kudos. It's way back then they were there way back. Still on the grind, we ain't tryna lay back. Ray-Bans on 9, I ain't tryna catch shade. I've been blocking out the haters with my future bridesmaid. Catch them at my shows going off in the front row. They be going off in the front row. They be pretty girls, but you know they stay blood though. If you wanna get to me, you gotta get past my front row. Yeah, you know I'ma roll with ya. Got my day one right there, that my sister. That's a real deal, that's forever, take a picture. And you know we been broke, but together we richer, so. Rolling with your day one, put your hands in the air, yeah, say something. Share your love, right wrong, make it spray gun. Top fam, yeah, we so fucking A1. Yes, if I'm a day one's a bus stop, then I'm shopped and climbed up.
So there was like quite a few intentions behind this. Just want to try and see your faces. I've lost your faces.
If you click gallery up the top right hand corner.
Ah, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So on the website at the time, the values and the like conscious theme was very present, but there wasn't a lot of like, this is also going to be a lot of fun kind of vibe. And that was a critical part of the culture that I wanted to communicate. So part of the reason why I made that video was to show that we're actually going to have a good time. And the other reason why we ran that whole event was because it's really very valuable to cater to your inner circle. You're unlikely to be the person who actually convinces everyone to sign up to your event. It's going to be their friends. So if you can really tailor to this inner circle of like deep fans, they're the ones who are going to share it with everyone else. So we put on this event, we gave them a lot of fun. We sold maybe 10 tickets with that early bird discount. And this was my whole focus for the next 2 months. It was like, bring in influential people from the community who are going to promote to their friends. And you can see this adoption curve. It's like the innovators are this small group who are really willing to take risks and are really values aligned. They bring in the early adopters. The early adopters are cooler and more socially acceptable, but also willing to take risks. And then they draw in the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. But if you try and focus on the late majority and the laggards, again, it's trying to please everyone. So you've got to keep your uniqueness and keep your weirdness and focus on your core people, and they draw in everyone else.
And can I just clarify here, Ash, this was an event that you put on for the kind of the Emergence Festival people, community, you shared it to them, and that was like a way of building excitement around Bloom. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a Bloom launch party.
Yeah.
And an Emergence reunion.
Okay. Yeah. So great. Yeah. But
you don't have to run it as a reunion. You can just run it as a launch party. You know, if you're running an event, you can basically run a pre-event event, which can be a webinar or a live gathering, and make it intimate and make it targeted at the group of people who are really your core advocates. And then grab the footage from that and use it as promotional materials to promote your actual event. And that video, I put it on Facebook. I tagged everyone. Everyone commented on it. So it started to get the word out about Bloom. And I also put the video on the website as a communication of what we're going to be experiencing.
It was a flavor, and people can essentially do that online as well through webinars or a pre-event online, essentially. Beautiful idea. And just for people who are looking here being like, what are innovators, laggards, late majority? You know, that's essentially like the traditional marketing term around and business around people who are willing to adopt a product quite early, and then people who need everyone else to have already agreed to the product before they jump on board.
Yeah.
And exactly. Can I just ask you what the yellow line was? And
yellow line is like how many people in total are consuming your offering.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there's a small lift in consumption at the start, and then it becomes exponential later on. But only if you really appeal to the innovators, who are people who take a lot of risks and are really values aligned, and the early adopters who kind of are slightly less risky, but still innovative and still like very much aligned to your core offer. So you're not trying to persuade the late majority. They come naturally if you really land the innovators and the early adopters.
Yeah. And can I just really quickly speak to this in terms of content? Like, you know, sometimes we can, you didn't actually say yes. Can I?
Go for it. Yeah. Please.
You know, sometimes we can think, oh my God, I have to actually convince the whole internet, all the people that are really, really hard to convince to buy into my product. But the reality is we actually need 10 people probably. We need 10 people to think our product is the shit. And naturally from those results and those people loving it, there's going to be a filter out effect, you know, using case studies, testimonials, word of mouth, and your business will do the work for you once you get those 10 to 20 people who love your stuff. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let other people promote for you. I mean, you still need to promote, but you also have to encourage other people to promote for you and give them reasons and ways, which we're going to talk about later on.
Yeah. And also it's like speaking to those 10 people. It's like, you don't need to speak to everyone, just speak to those 10 people. And that's kind of your avatar, really.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So after I did that, and then I was like, okay, I've got some people in. How do I get some other people in easily who are going to promote to other people? And I mapped out all the volunteers that I needed for the festival, and I gave them slightly, like pretty substantial festival discounts, and I brought them in. So that was another 10, 15 people who were volunteering. And I picked people who I knew would bring other people in. So there's like a very strong social proof mechanism operating. My goal, my overarching goal was, if you're in my community, I want 10 of your friends to be like, hey, are you going to Bloom Festival? I think I might go to Bloom Festival. Do you guys want to come with me? Maybe we go together. So that was my aim. And I was bringing in segments of our community piece by piece. So then after that, I brought in the volunteers. See, this was the post. If you want to read later, I kind of made a funny post about the video. And it was like, I was trying to go viral and be silly. So then I'd brought in the volunteers, I'd booked the venue, I'd paid thousands of dollars in deposits, and this was our sales, right? So we'd been selling for about 4 weeks, and we'd be making, so we made like 9 sales at the launch party, and then we were making like 1 sale every 2 or 3 days. So we'd gotten to about 25, and we were a third of the way through our launch, and we were aiming to get to 200. And I was like, shit, I've told everyone on Facebook that I'm going to sell 200 tickets and it's going to sell out. And we're clearly not doing that. And I was panicking. I was nervous. I was stressed out. I was overwhelmed. I remember one day I was like, I woke up at 10. I woke up at like 6. I worked till 10. And then I just couldn't work the rest of the day because I was so overwhelmed. And I really want to normalize this. I was not emotionally stable and grounded the whole time. I was nervous and stressed some of the time, and that's really normal. And this is part of building. This is part of growth, that we need these experiences. So the thing that got me through it was like, what is my worst case scenario? My worst case scenario, maybe I only sell 50 or 75 tickets and I lose like 20 grand. And what's it going to take for me to earn that 20 grand back? Get 2 coaching clients. What am I going to get out of this? I'm going to get amazing reputational benefits. I'm going to build a network. I'm going to do a beautiful contribution to the community. I'm going to get amazing footage and content from it. People spend $10,000 on a photo shoot. I need to readjust my goals so that they're healthy and achievable. And I need to focus on what's really important. Is what's really important making a whole lot of money out of this event? If it is, I should probably cancel it. Do I still want to do it? Yes, I still want to do it. So then what's really important? What's really important is that I provide a phenomenal experience, that I have a good time doing it, and that I surrender attachment so that I'm not stressed out the whole time. And there was a letting go at this point, on the 19th of May. There was like, okay, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. Just enjoy the experience. You're going to get better results that way anyway. That was a huge turning point for me. So I made peace with my risks and I decided to go on anyway. And I didn't have that fear and resentment in the background. I really processed it. And you can see around this date, there was a live video that I did on Facebook where I was actually processing my emotion for like 40 minutes. And I was like, I need people to see this. Like I don't want to pretend like I've got my shit together. I want this to be real. And that was very powerful because it stopped me needing to hide my fear. It's like, okay, it's out in the world now. I don't need to pretend to be someone that I'm not. So I did that. And then I was like, okay, I've processed this. What's next? How are we going to get more sales? And what I decided to do was like triple down my efforts on bringing in my network. So what I did was I basically I said in all of my application forms, if you're involved in this event, you're involved in promoting. Like this is part of our agreement. We're bringing in people who are willing to promote. And then I interviewed every single facilitator on each of their Facebook pages or Instagram pages. So I showed up talking about the festival on like 40 different people's social media pages over a period of 4 weeks. This is an example. Lucinda Light, we actually brought in 10 people who I gave free tickets in exchange for promoting the festival. And I chose influencers, people who inspire other people and have social authority. Actually, Lisa was someone who I invited and she very kindly promoted the festival, even though she wasn't able to come. And thank you, Lisa. I'm super grateful for that. So this is an example. So I got interviewed by Lucinda on her timeline and it got 1,400 views and another 600 views on Facebook, on YouTube. Now, I could have put all that effort into posting on my own page, but I only would have accessed my own network. So like putting that effort instead into showing up on other people's pages was hugely beneficial. Suddenly I wasn't just appearing on my own network's feed. I was appearing on everyone else's network's feed as well. And it was very like, you couldn't go a day during the 2 months before Bloom on Facebook without seeing my face appearing on someone's feed. Basically, that was the end result. And then the other cool thing was that I suddenly had all of these amazing videos, interview videos. Now, if I had the time and the resources, I would have cut them up and put little 1-minute snippets as promotional pieces, but I was MVPing it. So instead, on the facilitator page, every facilitator had their own video. You can't see them here because we're YouTube screen sharing, but like, these are amazing assets. You can actually hear the facilitators and feel their energy and their vibe when you're considering buying. And a lot of people came up to me and said, hey, those videos, they were what inspired me to go. Hearing, and this is a way that I was en masse harnessing star power to promote this festival. So what I did, like in practical terms, was I set up a spreadsheet with times on it, and I messaged all of the facilitators and I said, hey, book in an interview with me, put your name down. And then when the interview was about to happen, I would set up a live on their feed, and then I'd get my VA to download it, put it on YouTube, and put it on the website. And it became this simple, effortless flow. I enjoy interviewing people. I enjoy talking to them. And what's really important here is that it needs to be a win-win. Like the facilitator needs to receive benefit. They're not just giving something, they're receiving something. So I position the interview as an opportunity to promote their authority and their expertise. And in the actual interview, the first half was pretty much all just focused on them and how awesome they are. So it gave them an opportunity to promote themselves. And so they were very excited to do it. And I think I did probably 40 interviews across facilitators, performers, and the influencers who I brought in. Yes, love the win-win. That's right. And with the promoters, their influencers, the languaging was, I see, and because I don't want it to feel transactional and tacky. I actually want it to be really vision aligned and values aligned. I want people who are promoting it, not just because they're going to get a free ticket, but because they share the vision. It's really important because they're the people who are actually going to inspire people. They're not just ticking a box by writing a post. So when I approached an influencer, I would say, hey, I see you as a leader of our community. And I want to bring people into this experience, this initiatory, potent experience, where we're going to rewrite the culture around how we have fun in parties and how we transform without all the intimidation. So there's a whole piece around actually designing the culture and inviting people into a new culture. And the people who I brought in were genuinely inspired to promote. They posted more. They posted with passion. They reached out to their friends individually. I think of the 200 people, probably 30 or 40 tickets were using coupon codes from influencers or facilitators. But even if they didn't use the coupon code, they heard about it from all these leaders in the community. So when they signed up, it had all this social proof behind it. So this, this was really the body of the strategy that really worked for me. And how you can use that is you can create social goodwill as well. You can have past clients, you can interview them on their Facebook pages. You can bring in guest facilitators. You can bring in people who can just promote you based on their experience of you in the past. So yeah, creating win-win promo collaborations is really, really critical. Now I'm just aware of the time. Lisa, how much do I have? Is it 15 minutes or?
Yes, I mean, I will certainly not stop you. And yes, I'm also aware you would have other things on today. So 15 minutes is great. And if we don't get a chance for questions, we can just chat about that afterwards.
I'm happy to go over time if you're happy with that.
Bless you. I'm here until you're finished. I'm not going anywhere. I'm captive. I'm captivated.
Great. Okay, cool. So I did the interviews and we started getting more sales. So this strategy was working. So you can see the next few weeks, the sales really started to lift. And this peak here and this peak here were our peak buying moments that I talked to you about. And we were at about 100 sales, which was great. We were like, okay, this is actually working. We're actually maybe going to get 200 people. This is awesome. Oh my God, I can't believe it. So that was pretty exciting. And then, and this was actually before we brought in the influencers, the 10 like influencers. And the way that you can do this is you can approach people who are influential in your community and invite them into your offering and give them discounted access in exchange for promotion. And if they're not values aligned, it will feel transactional and icky. But if they share your vision and what you're offering is complementing what they're offering, but not competing with what they're offering, they'll feel inspired and they'll get on board. And you can also offer them an affiliate partnership. They can get paid for each person they bring in as well. So that's how I did it, and it worked really well. Now, at this point, we hadn't yet brought the influencers in, but I wanted to supercharge it, and that's when I invited them. And I'd worked out, so, I said, do your finances. I'd worked out for every influencer who I bring in, it's going to cost me $120 in food and accommodation. The ticket price is like $450. So even if an influencer brings like two influencers bring one person, so one person for every two, I still break even. So it's like, so I could have brought in 20 with those numbers. The reason why I had the confidence to give out these free tickets is because I knew my finances. So that I just want to bring attention back to that, how valuable that is. So the next step, I'm like, I've worked out this epic, I love the inner child getting excited photo. Yeah, so valuable for sure. So I'd built this epic promotion plan, and I could see that it was starting to work, but I was doing all the logistics of the festival and all the marketing, and I was doing like 10 interviews a week, and it was like way too much for me. And I was getting overwhelmed again. And what I decided to do was bring in another staff member, which is Ellie. This is when we did the thank yous for Ellie and Sarah at the end of the festival. So you can imagine 200 people behind the camera applauding them, and Ellie's crying and Sarah's crying. It was a beautiful moment. So I brought in Ellie, and I was aware that bringing in Ellie, she'd probably do 10 hours a week at like $50 an hour for 10 weeks. So it was about $5,000 in expenses. And it was stressful to think about adding expenses, but I knew that the 10 hours a week that it would free up for me would enable me to market and keep growing. So I was willing to take that risk. And Ellie, I basically handed over all the logistics and all the admin to her, and all the client support, customer support, and communicating with contractors and all sorts of things. And it freed me up, and I was like, okay, I can do this. It gave me that boost of inspiration and clarity to keep going. So when you're overwhelmed with work, or ideally before you're overwhelmed, find people who can do the things that you don't want to do, so that you have the time to really grow your business. So valuable, so worth it. And then the next piece was, I wanted to make it really easy to spread the word, because some people actually weren't promoting at that point. So I created a promotion guide, and it gave language to people. And I also had promotional images that they could use in their posts, and clear instructions. Here's all the things you can do to promote, because the less cognitive load you have around how they promote, the easier it's going to be for them to do it. And I saw after putting that out that a lot of people promoted who hadn't before. And I also give them these little name cards to post on their social media, which Ellie and Sarah created. And that was really valuable as well. So make it easy to spread the word.
I have to say, I was just blown away with the promotional pack that you put together. It was really great. Like, amazing.
Tell us a little bit more, Lise. Like, as someone who received it, why did you appreciate it?
I appreciated it because you, like you said, you cut out all the cognitive load work, and it was actually a learning experience. You know, it was again that win-win of like, it was like, here I'm helping you to help me, but I'm also showing you a very thought out and structured way of how you could even do this for yourself. You know, like what is Bloom about? You made it easy. You made people feel part of the team. You gave them images. It was just really, it was really cool.
Beautiful. Thanks, Lise. So I kept running the interviews, and essentially I saturated my audience. I just would not shut up about Bloom for a month. And that's what it takes. People need to hear about something like 10 times before they sign up. And that was what I learned working at my mentor's business, because they were saturating their audience, and that was what was working for them. And I look at this experience of like 50 people sitting around the fire in such deep connection, and such like beautiful connections made, finding new lovers, making new friends, such depth of gratitude at the event. Like, it was that sense of what I'm contributing that made it worth it for me to pour myself in. And I really like this fire metaphor. It's like, when you're marketing something, you're building a fire, you're pouring your energy in to build a fire that other people can warm themselves around. You're breathing life into a vision of what's possible, and you're sharing your energy, and people get to receive that energy and feel something inspiring that they need and desire. And then eventually that fire is so big and so bright that they're warm. Okay, I don't need to put my hands by the fire anymore. I'm actually warm enough. I'm actually getting a bit hot. Like, I want to put some energy out to some other people, and they take your fire and they grow their own campfires. And that was what all those facilitators and influencers were doing. They were creating their own campfires. And then at the event, everyone gets so filled up in inspiration and joy that they go out into their lives and they share the light. And this is a really powerful frame to think about when you're marketing. It's like you're creating a culture, you're creating a possibility, you're creating a belief in something new. Your spirit is lighting people up. So we upgraded the website, we set up our Facebook ads. I hired a Facebook ads guy who was also doing Google ads. So when people Googled Bloom Festival, we showed up at the top. I put in like $100 a week on Facebook ads and $50 a week on Google ads, which just kept that saturation going. And the sales started to lift quite significantly. And after that, I realized, talking through all of these interviews, that I actually wasn't super clear. The culture was a little bit confusing and scattered. And so I boiled it down to 3 qualities: nourishing connections, intentional fun, and embodied personal growth. I boiled it down to 3 key themes, and that clarity enabled me to speak very clearly and very compellingly. And those 3 themes played out through the whole festival as well. And we ran facilitator gatherings. We ran one just to like have everyone meet. And then what emerged was a desire around trauma-informed facilitation. So we ran a second one. And like, this was us putting time and energy in, coming together around our values, doing stuff that we really cared about. And it was so inspiring. Like, we had, so there's 6 people there and another 7 here. So we had 15 facilitators coming together to just talk about trauma-informed facilitation. This is us putting our values into practice as a community, and it builds a sense of community. So what you can, like, how does that work for marketing? What it means is, put your money where your mouth is. Find out what's really important to your community. Invest time and energy in nurturing it and building community around it. And firstly, you're living your mission. And secondly, you're going to inspire those people. You know, these people here, like Danny here, she wrote just so many posts. And the people here, they wrote so many posts. It was like just amazing what happens when you actually live the purpose. People will show up for you. So build the culture. Next tip, create options at all prices. So this is a pretty straightforward one. We had camping, which was basic ticket price, all the way up to these deluxe safari tents, which were an extra $1,000 or $2,000. And this is a very powerful piece. Create a very high maximum spend for your offering. Higher than you would think, because there's always going to be a few people who are just fully cashed up and want to spend more than they can currently with you. Have a luxe, premium, high ticket offering, have a VIP package, and those few people are going to invest way more in you than anyone else with less effort. That was really potent. All our high-end accommodations sold out very quickly. And then the last piece, this is actually not the last piece, but it's close, is expect major sales at the last minute. So a week out, we were sitting at 125 sales. No, 160 sales. And then in the last week, we sold another 40. And because I'd done so much effort, actually the sales are pretty front loaded. They're pretty early, but most sales campaigns, they have this exponential curve. So to remember that, remember when you're like at 125 sales, or like you're at 70% of your mark and you've got a week out, the last 30% is likely to fill out at the last minute, because people will only buy at the last minute. We know we just want to hold off the payment as long as possible and say, in case something better comes up. So just understand that people are going to buy at the last minute, and give them those peak buying moments throughout the journey, like here and here and here, because that's what's going to help them buy earlier and give you the peace of mind that you need. So we got to the end of the sales period. We ran the event. It was so beautiful and so rewarding. This is one of the ecstatic dances. Like you can see how people are getting into it. This is a photo of me when people were thanking me for the festival, and I'm like really drinking in the applause of 200 people. It was so touching. It like cracked through my heart. You know, it's so tempting as a facilitator or a provider to just give the thing and move on to the next thing. But we're constantly just giving and giving and giving and giving, and it can become really exhausting. It's really important to receive what you're giving, to actually sit back and look at what's happening and feel the contribution that you're making. So part of the reason why I brought Ellie in was so that she could run the festival logistically while I got to experience the festival and really felt what it was like to receive it, partly so that I could make sure it was running well. And secondly, so that I could actually enjoy it, because I knew that emotionally I would need that to feel motivated to run the next thing. So my favorite moments in the festival were just sitting and watching everyone and thinking, wow, I did that. We did that. We made this beautiful thing, and just like letting myself receive the experience. Very important. Next piece is gather assets. When you run your event, get the testimonials. I know it's going to be the last thing on your mind, but when you want to promote your next festival, you're going to need, or your next event, you're going to need stuff like this. So after the festival, I just kept taking screenshot after screenshot of every single person's Facebook post. And I had 2 videographers and 2 photographers. And now I have this huge bank of amazing promotional material. Like if I ran another festival with all of this promotional material, I reckon I'd get another 20, 30% ticket sales without a doubt, because it's so compelling. Like I have 60 of these posts. And just like all these like photos like this picture tells tells a whole story, and it's very powerful. So make sure you invest in assets. It's worth it. Cool. And the last piece, this is my last of the marathon of lessons, seed and upsell. So throughout this festival, I was aware that there's going to be some facilitators in the room who need coaching, who need help growing their businesses. And you can see down here, want help with your biz, reach out. It's a little seed there. What seeding actually is giving people useful ideas and beliefs throughout the event so that when you sell to them, they're ready to buy. So throughout the event, I was talking about how important it is to take your mission into action and step up and contribute, and not just have a beautiful experience, but actually extend it out into your life. And after the festival, and at the end of the festival, I told people, I am a coach, I am a facilitator. If you want help growing your business, come reach out. And I had 3 people at this festival who I had never met before approach me and ask me to coach them in their business. So, and that was like, I made like 30, 40 grand worth of coaching sales off the end of this festival, which made it more than worth it. So yeah, seed and upsell. Remember to seed during your events, prepare people for the sale. And at the end, own the sale. People want to go further with you. So give them a space to do that. Cool. So this is your checklist. I've kind of compiled it into different categories. If you're thinking of running a group event, it's just the things that I've already told you. So I'm not going to read through them. Mindset and embodiment, community and team, finance, marketing and brand, and launch tactics. I recommend next time you have an event, checking through this and making sure that all these items are covered. And yeah, if you want to keep going, if you're watching this webinar and you'd like some support on your event, if you'd like some coaching or some consulting or mentoring, reach out and I would love to support you. So that's it for the content. Wow, we actually finished at 12:02. That's like pretty good timing.
It's literally, we started 2 minutes after 10:30 as well. So that's literally exactly.
Yeah.
What are you, a mechanic? Is that your wealth dynamic by any chance?
Yes.
Right.
So,
Timing? Is that
yeah.
what?
Something like that.
like that. Amazing. I know Claire's got some questions, so I'm gonna let Claire fire if you're open to them.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to stay and answer questions. Go for it.
I'll gush later about how awesome that was, but I'll just let Claire get a question asked.
Awesome. Thank you. I loved that. That was really, really, you know, I guess I actually learned some new things on that. And I think, you know, I was like all in for a reminder, which is what I thought I might be getting. And I actually there was some new information there that is going to be really valuable for me. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Particularly, I do have questions, but I just want to say particularly the way you structured collaborations, because I've been invited to collaborate quite a few times, and sometimes it just hasn't felt aligned, and it's kind of almost scared me from collaborations. And I feel that collaborating is actually going to be a huge piece for my business moving forward. And I just liked the way you spoke through that journey. It was really cool. So my questions are,
can I just say, as someone who has collaborated with Ash, one thing that I think he really brings to collaboration, which I think is a culture that does need to be set, he's very clear about the exchange and the win-win. And there is a conversation around it, and there is a checking in around, you know, does this feel like a fair exchange? Like, what else would you need for that to feel like, you know, there's a generosity, but also boundaries and clarity and consent, like quite informed consent as well. Whereas, you know, I think that, you know, there are some kind of collaborations that they happen on the fly. There's not a lot of conversation. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I've agreed to all this stuff that I actually didn't realize was a part of this, and it doesn't feel like a fair exchange anymore. But it's too late because I'm in, right? I don't know if you're speaking to that, but yeah, just wanted to speak to that culture piece on consent, informed consent.
Yeah, I think that's something that's actually the new piece that dropped in for me, because I don't think it's actually, I haven't heard, maybe I just haven't heard it hasn't pricked my ears, but I haven't heard many people talk about the process of that, because a lot of the collaborations that I've been asked to do, I haven't felt like we're equal, or I've felt like, well, maybe you're getting something out of this, but I'm not, or I'm getting something out of this, but you're not, which leaves me feeling icky. Am I giving enough, or vice versa? So I loved your reiteration of that, Lisa. But my questions are, firstly, you know how you talked about saturation. So it's taken me a while just to be like, fuck it, I'm just going to saturate my audience and I'm just going to do it. And every time I do it, I make sales. But I do feel like there's this piece of, which I have found emotionally, I've had to really use all the tools of like, I'm just keeping talking about the same thing. And, you know, I've heard, you know, unless you feel like a broken record, when the moment you feel like a broken record, people are just picking up your message. But I'm wondering if you felt that some of the keys during that saturation period, were you saturating from different angles, or were you just like, and do you think that was quite a major factor?
Yeah. I mean, like, well, firstly, yes, I was saturating from different angles, which creates variety and interest. Like, it's really important. If you're just saying literally the same thing over and over again, people will just tune out. So it's about creating marketing content that's actually interesting and engaging. Yeah. And the way that I did that was giving it from different people and having them talk about what they're offering. So it's important to get creative and use different channels to create a diverse range of experiences within your capacity. If it's going to overwhelm you and you can just do text, then just do text. Like, you really have to accept your limitations. But Claire, one thing that I haven't spoken about that I think will be really helpful for you is to understand that there are like, when someone's considering buying a product, there's like 7 psychological buckets that they need to fill. And you can focus on each of those buckets, and it will create variety in your content. And it will also help them hear what they need to hear in order to buy your offering. So the first one is problem. Like the first four are problem, promise, pathway, and product awareness. So problem awareness is like, do I even have a problem here? It's about helping them understand that there is an issue, that they have that issue, and helping them feel the pain of that. And not everyone has the issue, right? It's only going to resonate for people who actually feel it. But some people, they've got the problem that your product solves, and they're not even aware that they have the problem. So it's speaking to the problem. The next one is promise awareness. And it's like, what is even possible? Because there's a lot of people that know that they have the problem and they don't even know that it can be fixed. They don't know what's out there. So having personal stories and testimonies and social proof, interviewing past clients, sharing your own personal successes, being an example of what's possible, that gives promise awareness. And then there's pathway awareness. So like, they're like, okay, I've got this problem. I know it's possible to achieve the result that I want, but I don't know how. And then you can start writing about pathways. They could do a course, they could do a book, they could do someone else's course, they could do your course. This is how you uniquely differentiate yourself from other people in the market and other ways of offering in the market. So that's a whole theme that you can write lots of content on. You can talk about other pathways and why they're good and not good and what's right for what people. And then there's product awareness, which is where you're pitching. You're talking about your offering, you know, the benefits, the features, the price point, all those sorts of things. So those are four of the categories, but like there are other categories. Like there's social proof, and there's emotional experience, there's technical skill, there's like all these different themes that you can write. Basically what I'm saying is have a think about all the marketing themes, and that will enable you to create variety. There's lots of other themes as well. How does that land for you, Claire?
Yeah, I love that. And it's like it just makes it way more exciting for me as well, because I think previously I've been talking about the same thing in the same way, and that's because it's the way that comes most naturally to me. So it's like, okay, how can I, like you said, you know, honor what my limitations are, but also like just open the container a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to what Ash said before about, you know, you've got like looking at the wealth dynamics, you know, you've got people who are going to value different things, right? Or they're going to have different skills. And really, you know, there's a way to speak to the same value from many different angles. And this is the part around like, you know, our empathy and our ability to empathize with what other types of people might value as well. You know, while still saying our own values, but looking at like, how can I say that from this way so that this person sees the value in it from this perspective? Maybe they don't care about this. Maybe they care more about this.
Yeah, it's picking a framework that feels fun and inspiring and not too complicated. And then a framework that has different categories, and then writing to each category, and then you can diversify your content. So for example, if you're really into astrology, you could write a post for each of the signs that appeals to that sign uniquely. Or if you're really into wealth dynamics, you could write a post for stars, and then a post for mechanics, and then a post for traders. And like, that's how you can diversify and stop sounding so repetitive.
Yeah. And then I guess can I ask one more question?
Totally. Go for it.
That segues off the wealth dynamics.
Yeah.
So I guess this is more specifically a wealth dynamics question, because I know that you know quite a bit about wealth dynamics, but like originally, like I have been a mechanic in the past, which is around the time that I had chronic fatigue. So I wasn't facilitating as much as I had been. And now I'm like, I don't want to I'm like, mechanic stuff, you know. Is it possible to change wealth dynamics? I mean, I haven't done the wealth dynamics profile questionnaire again, but maybe I should.
Totally. Like I'm definitely moving more towards star as well. In fact, I think there is a natural progression that people who are leaders in any industry happen to go through. They start in doing, like executing tasks, like you might start as like just doing yoga. Let's take yoga as an example. You might just start as a yoga practitioner. Then you start learning and you might move through a systems focus, and you might be very focused on systems. But eventually the systems, once we master them and teach them for a while, we recognize how we want to move the culture, and we stopped being motivated by facts and details, and we start being motivated by values. And, you know, you see an engineer, you know, as a mechanic, it's like engineers eventually become managers and then business owners. That's typically the progression of an actual engineer. As you start to want to change the culture and lead a movement, you become a visionary. So you move into that star category. It's also very profitable if you've got the capacity. Once you become a brand, once you become a figurehead for a movement, people will buy the things that you're offering based on who you are. And it becomes less about having lots and lots of features and more about standing for something. So yeah, that's a very natural progression.
Yeah, it's not like a star sign where you're this, where you're like stuck in the same star sign for your whole life. Not that it's bad to be stuck in a star sign, but yeah. It's movable.
And that's what I object to in astrology. Oh my God, did he just object to astrology? Can he do that? That's like, like, I think it's a beautiful framework, but like anything that fixes you in one personality structure, like you have to be open to the possibility that your soul is going to want to become something more than what your personality structure is. And then you can celebrate that and grow into that. Yeah.
100%. Because yeah, like I love, you know, it's kind of the thing around human design as well, when people are like, oh, if you're this, then you can't be that. I'm like, not really. And it's like, yeah, star supporters, I'm a star supporter, but like I can get shit done as well. So what's that about, you know? Do you feel like if I asked all your questions, Claire? Because I just have one that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, I've asked my questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Ash, the thing I would love to ask you about, given that content is my, you know, my excitement. I know there was a post that you wrote and it kind of corresponded to that time where you were like, we've sold a certain amount of tickets. I've hit, you know, I've got this target of 200. I think we've sold 25. There's so long to go. And there was that moment of like, I'm overwhelmed. This is hard. I've set an unrealistic target. I'm going to fail, and all the insecurities come up, right? And then I actually remember that you wrote this post that kind of was like super transparent, and this is how many tickets that I've sold, and I'm sitting in that and I'm celebrating that. And you know, if you have a moment to share, just even in a minute, the psychology behind why someone would share something that feels like a failure during a launch. You know, like a lot of people are like, I would never want to tell everyone I've only got 2 people signed up. Like that sounds like suicide. Why would I do that? And I'm very much of like the opinion that there is something very powerful about it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
For you, from your experience.
Yeah, cool. Like I am not fully resolved on this topic. I'll just qualify. Like I haven't figured it out really, but I'll share what my current view is. Yeah. And that is like the 2 main things that you're doing on social media for brand marketing are you're presenting yourself as someone worth following, like a leader in the field, and you're presenting yourself as human. Some people are just all about leadership. I'm amazing. I'm the aspirational example. Look how great my day is every single day. And you look at those people and it's like, they're not real. That's 2D. There's something missing. I don't trust this person. And then you look at the people who are all about their vulnerability and their pain, and it's like, oh my God, this is just tiring. Like, this isn't inspiring me. You know, I feel for this person, I care for them, but I don't want to follow them.
Mm.
And it's the people who demonstrate power and confidence and passion and clarity about the pathway forward. They've got that leadership, and they're also authentic and honest. It's like, okay, I want to follow this person's leadership, and I trust them that they're not pretending to be something that they're not. So leadership and authenticity are these two critical values, especially on social media, because on social media, there's such a temptation to pretend to be something that you're not. Like, it's very easy to see how inauthentic so many people are being, that when someone actually shows up as authentic, as a balanced human, it really stands out from the crowd. So I do encourage people to be really honest about where they're at. But it's also about timing, you know, like, and I had an awareness that when I posted that I'm like undergoing a really big emotional stress right now, how are my sales calls as a coach going to go that week? You know, someone's like, am I going to invest 10 or 20 grand in this guy's coaching? And I look at this post and he looks like a bit of a mess. Some of them will be like, wow, he's authentic. He's real. I value that. And others will be like, nah, I don't want to deal with that emotional mess. I just want someone who's fully got their shit together. So you have to think about timing as well. So like, I'm much more comfortable posting about like deep vulnerability and pain when I'm not in the last 2 weeks of a launch, because I don't want to muddy the container with my own stuff. Like, I want to stay focused on the thing that I'm offering. But when I'm not launching, I'm way more, there's just more of me that comes out. So you know, in the last 2 weeks of a launch, I would probably refrain from a pain story until I've come out the other side. But as general brand marketing, I think it's really important to show all sides of me. I think that's the best way of understanding it.
I love that answer so much, Ash. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like this is a really big piece. And a lot of people ask me this question, you know, not in that exact way, but it's this idea of like, how can I maintain my authority while still being human? And it is really about the framing and the timing, and making sure that you're also thinking about the safety of the people you're serving, and that you can, you know, you're making sure that you're demonstrating to them that you can hold yourself, and so that all the people at the Bloom Festival don't think, great, like Ash is in the middle of having a breakdown while he's facilitating my really safe space. How awesome. You know, it is actually kind and thoughtful and caring to make sure that your container feels held by you, and also finding opportune moments where you're like, I can share my real self here and there's not going to be a massive impact.
The other thing is, like, deeper than that, beyond what you're telling people, what's really important is what you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
Because like, when you're posting on social media and so many people are seeing, it's like hijacking your psychology. Like, social media is an amazing marketing tool, but it's a very toxic environment psychologically.
Can be.
Or it can be. It doesn't have to be. And it's getting better and better thanks to people like you, Lisa. Like, you're really shifting the culture. But the medium is designed to create consumption, and it's not necessarily healthy. It's a bit like binge eating. It can encourage binge eating, basically, of content. And it can encourage insecurity. As a platform, the content on the platform can be really rich, but the way the algorithm is designed can promote insecurity. So know that when you're using this amazing promotional tool, that it's a game that comes with challenges. And so you have to keep your own self-image and your own agenda really clear, and not get sucked into the temptation to prove to the world that you're something that you're not. I think that's key. It's like, I'm in this place, so it's like, these are the things that I might tell myself. It's like, I value my authenticity. I value who I am. I'm not commodifying myself. I'm here because I have a worthy mission and I want to invite people in, and I deserve to make money and I deserve to promote myself. And these are all beautiful things. I'm not here to pretend anything because I am inherently worthy. I'm not here to hide anything. I'm not here. Once I start getting stressed about people seeing my vulnerability, it's not about figuring out what I'm going to write. It's about figuring out what I'm believing in that moment. You know, who am I? Am I actually just worthy as I am? Or do I need to prove myself? Is my survival, am I making my survival dependent on how people see me? Or am I grounded in a really strong sense of my own worthiness and abundance? Once you ground into that, it becomes less complicated figuring out what to write. Because even if you're going through shit like we all do, your mentality around that shit is really healthy and empowering. So when you write about it, you're not looking like a victim. You're looking like someone who has challenges like we all do, and someone who's facing them with courage.
100%. And this is why embodiment is so important, because we can feel it all while still being empowered. That is actually the root of this. It's like, feeling disempowering emotions does not take you out when you know how to hold them. And that's why it's so important that this work actually does get out there. You know, embodied people are going to write embodied content, right? That's the joy of it. And that's why, you know, in this, the content cauldron, I've invited people in here who are not necessarily only like business, marketing, branding consultants. I'm inviting in people who are teaching us about wellness and relationships and movement and our bodies and confidence and our emotions, because when we are holistically happy beings, we're going to write the best content, right?
Yeah.
That's how we're going to live the most inspired life. And that's why, you know, we have beautiful Claire presenting towards the end of the month as well, who's going to bring more of this juice. And I'm so grateful to have you guys in the container sharing your gifts with everyone, because, you know, I was sitting there thinking about it as you spoke. I was like receiving this. I was receiving this. This was a gift for me, and we are changing culture together. So thank you so much, Ash, for your time and your wisdom, and your incredible mission and your incredible fire to make things happen. It's
thanks,
really
darling.
exciting.
Such a pleasure to be invited here. Such a pleasure to be sharing with your audience. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. It's a real gift. Honestly, like, I've been wanting to share this story, and this gave me the perfect opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, our honor. And Claire, if you'd like to share anything before we jump off, I don't know how I'll ever end this call, but I know that I have to end it.
Just massive thank you. Like, it's I really respect your journey, and I've just loved watching you, and to hear the actual, like, these are the pieces that are the most important when you're an entrepreneur, and these are the pieces that people talk about, like the highlight reel of it, but don't talk about like the transparent reality of it enough. And I just really enjoyed your angle and just the way you spoke my language, because a lot of the languaging out there isn't quite, I get bored quite easily. I'm like, oh yeah, this again. But it was like the way you were able to put it across was really, really, like, I really resonated with a lot of it. Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
You're a magnetic presenter, Ash. Please keep presenting.
I will. With pleasure. With pleasure.
All right. Any final words, Ash? Anything you'd like to leave us with? How do you feel? What's one word for how you feel right now?
I feel good. I feel satisfied.
Yeah, I feel full and satisfied as well. Like I just ate a good meal.
Yeah, look, I would just say if anyone watching this wants some extra support, wants some guidance, feel free to reach out, and good luck. Like keep keep making these inspiring events, keep educating and inspiring people, and just keep doing what you do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the replay. We'll see you
Bye,
later.
everyone.
Bye. Have a beautiful Monday.